Hello and welcome to another episode of the PMC podcast, where PMC stands for Project Management Conversations. Today we have Antonio with us, who is one of the finest minds when it comes to project management out there. He is also the author of Harvard Business Review's Project Management Handbook, which I actually happen to have right here. He was also the global chairman of the Project Management Institute in 2016. And there are, a lot of details that I can share about his career. But let's start off with this podcast. It's truly an honor to have you on the show today, Antonio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Joy. And it's a pleasure to be on your podcast. I know it's very widely listened among the professionals in project management. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So we will be talking about one of Antonio's articles where he explained the role of AI in project selection. Antonio, can you start by sharing why project selection and prioritization, why have these become such a critical part of, modern organizational success? It has always been important, but what has changed, especially in today's project economy?
There's two main factors, I would say, for this increase in importance. One, the statistics show that project failure is still very high, 60-70% of project fails. And based on my research, you could say that around 30% or 40% of the failures are at the beginning of the project. We launch a project without having the resources, without a compelling business case. So if we would do that part better, then we will increase the success rate. So that's one thing. Second thing that I think is really important is all the project management concepts around prioritization and project selections are quite old. They were developed 30, 40 years ago. They are used for prioritization of 3, 5, 10 projects, which you can do. But today, organizations have thousands of projects. So how can you use these old methods, which are good in a sense, but are not applicable in a world where projects have exploded? So that's the second reason. We need to use AI to help us get more clarity on all these amount of projects.
Okay. I'll stick to that number that you mentioned earlier, because that's something you mentioned in the article as well, about how 70% of projects fail to deliver. Why do you think these numbers are still so high? We've had all these advancements in project management tools and methodologies. Why do you think is this number still high?
I think there's several reasons. Shavi, there's one reason. I think project management methods have not evolved. We still use the methods mostly developed 50 years ago for managing single projects. Now we're talking about other type of projects. I think we've not embraced much of the technology that you see in operations, in ERP systems, in other kind of areas of the business, Salesforce. They've not been embedded yet in project management. Mostly we use that there's no data, so we cannot use it. Then there's also the leader role. Leaders do need to pay more attention in their role as selecting projects and sponsoring projects in execution. So that is the other big area that has not evolved, and leaders still spend most of their time in running the business instead of focusing on changing. And the last element for me, organizations are still set up for the past century, very hierarchical, very bureaucratic, and this is really bad for projects. You need to be lean, you need to be flat, you need to work as a team, and so the organizational aspects, the culture plays another role. So these are kind of the 3-4 areas which explain project failure.
Got it. And you've also mentioned like some traditional project management selection methods, like, project selection methods like BCA, scoring models, Eisenhower metrics, and all that. Could you briefly explain why these methods, they are foundational but why are they struggling to meet the demand of today's projects, right? Is it because of complexity, or are there many more reasons?
I would highlight two main reasons. First, they were developed like for small amount of projects where you can spend maybe 2 weeks analyzing the project, finding the right data for that process to go through the scoring matrix. So it was not something very light. So they were good, but when you have 10 projects, and so that's one of the reasons. Imagine you need to spend 1 week with 1,000 projects just to be able to score them and to have it's important,
Yeah.
but it's just before you launch the projects, they're already useless. So I think that's not the problem of the model. It's just that the world has changed very much in the last 40, 50 years. The second, I think, challenge is that they're based on the assumption that we provide good data for our business cases, and it has been proven that we are biased. When you want a business case, we make it look good. Yeah, so the costs are always lower than what we expect. The benefits are always huge. So there's a lot of biases in our thinking. So I think artificial intelligence and tools can help us to have that second opinion of say, okay, you are a bit exaggerating here. So I think that second aspect, us as human beings, we should not be approving all the business cases. Business cases are made to be rejected, and just 1 out of 10 should be approved, but we approve 9 out of 10. So there's that problem that we need to solve.
Awesome. I'll come back to biases as well. But on top of your mind, do you have any real world example where these methods might have led to any project misalignment or any failure? You did mention like if you have 1,000 projects, you cannot be expected to work on, prioritizing them. But any other example that you could give, that would be great.
I work in a bank, and I was portfolio manager for the bank. So I was looking at all the projects. We had about 100 significant projects, and just to try to get the data to create my table and matrix and weights, and it took me like 6 months. So I realized that my leaders, and if we want to provide the right information, they cannot wait 6 months. And I still had some blanks. So I thought there must be another way to prioritize in yeah, and there's another article in Harvard Business Review that I wrote a few years ago, which I call the hierarchy of purpose. So I was trying to do a top-down prioritization based on other LLMs. All these tools are mostly bottom-up. Yeah, the methods are bottom-up. You need to find information for all the projects and then their process. We said maybe we need, as the amount of projects are so big, let's look from the top down, so maybe we can really be more focused.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's move into AI then, right? So you mentioned AI is more than just marginal improvement. A lot of people think that summarizing stuff and writing emails and this kind of stuff is what AI can help with. But you mentioned that it is actually a transformative shift. And you also talk about some of the fundamental flaws that we have in the traditional project management selection, right? So how does AI help here? How is AI making these data-driven decisions that you speak of? And you also talk about human biases in your previous answer, right? So does this minimize human bias, and how does AI, there's also this qualitative and quantitative factors which might have to be accounted for. Where does AI fit into all of this?
Well, I think my focus has been on machine learning. So creating an algorithm that learns with data, what are the factors that can make a project succeed versus factors that can a project fail. So it's been that training of that algorithm, which is more powerful than a PMO or a portfolio or 10 PMs that can give you an opinion because AI is still a point of view. It has biases too, because I have bias and I develop it with a professor of computer science in Canada. So there will be bias, but at least you have the capacity, the understanding that we don't have a lot of what we know is gut feeling, is experience. Now we have a tool that tends to be a bit more objective, that has looked and more than 500 projects and can assess, okay, that part, if you miss that in this type of projects, watch out, better just pause the project, solve it, or this project ranks really low compared to others. So it's having another view. Also, one of the factors that we are not able to do very well as humans, Travi, is ranking. How do you rank? What are your top 10 projects or top 100? And in a ranking, 1, 2, 3, 4, no company can do that. They can tell you these are my 100 initiatives. They might focus on a couple, but that's it. And this tool helps you to rank them with the algorithm. So that's super powerful. If you say we have budget for 10, you don't need to do 20, of course. So there's a lot of benefits that we don't provide as human beings. We are not able.
Okay, sounds good. Now, I'd also like to touch upon predictive analytics, because that is one of the most exciting aspects, right? And you might think that, you touched upon how ML might step in here, but these AI algorithms, how can they predict project success rates? And I'd also like to know, what are the kind of data points or the kind of data that are most important for predictions like these?
Yeah. Well, I thought you didn't need a lot of data criteria to predict success, and that's how in my book I have a project canvas. I have 2 canvas. The one in HPR has 9 business areas, and the other one has 14. So I thought with these 14 areas, you would have a good sense if your project has the pillars, or is well founded, or is going to fail. But working with the professor in computer science, he said, no, the machine learning algorithm needs much more criteria. So I developed 94 criteria, all related to the 14 areas of the canvas. But that's a lot. That's about 4 or 5 per area. So the nice thing about this algorithm is that it adjusts the weight as well. The more it learns, so I thought maybe sponsorship is more important than procurement. I don't know, but maybe this. So I think there's a lot of things that are evolving. Can you predict success? I am almost certain that you will never predict success, because the world changes. Yeah. And
Right.
And you're going to, so we can have a really good project today that in 6 months is not valid anymore. But in theory, you can say, well, this project has all the fundamentals to be successful.
Right.
Now is the project manager who needs to be able to see the things with the sponsor, say we need to adjust that project, we need to maybe stop it for a while, maybe radically close it. So that's the nice skills that we need to develop that AI cannot provide you.
Okay, got it. And you touched upon this adaptability piece as well, right? Like, a project might be really good today, but in 6 months' time, it might go outdated, or it might not be something that the organization might want to even pursue. Now, let's talk about this real-time adaptability, because the ability for AI to adapt in real time, this sounds like a game changer, right? It almost feels like that's what humans and that's what project managers are supposed to be doing. So can you give an example? Can you give an example of how this adaptability might have, may have saved any project from failure?
Well, for example, there was a project that they bought a software program to part of their HR people engagement. And so at the beginning, that looked good. But then we saw that as evolving with the project, because the AI you can use at the beginning to check, but then you can also do it with running projects and see, okay, this project looked good, but then, so based on what we've input over the last 6 months, we can that this project is no longer supported, for example, by stakeholders, or there's no engagement on the change management. So either we do something into that direction, or we rather stop it. So you can sense also the adoption part, which I think is very, very important.
Okay, got it. So obviously, I mean, we are at a stage right now where it seems like AI is not just talking about efficiency and cost savings. It's actually getting much more than that, right? It's getting bigger than that. Would you agree?
I completely agree, and I think it's hard to measure the impact, but I think the impact, just imagine you're going to be wasting from 100 millions that you put, you will be wasting 70 millions of your resources and funds, and now you're saying, well, now you can say 40 that you will just maybe waste 30, maybe project failure per se is not too bad as long as you learn. So there's some projects that need to fail, but there's a lot of projects that should not be launched or should not be failing. And that's where I think added value comes is really huge, because companies are spending a lot of money on big projects. So I'm very excited about that part.
Got it. Now, one other thing that I would want to touch upon is strategic alignment, right? Because mostly all companies will initiate projects that align with their strategy, right?
Yeah.
Now, how can AI ensure that, right? How can AI ensure that projects are, closely aligned with what the strategic alignment of the company is, what the company's strategy really is?
Well, this is something that the algorithm learns as well. It's something that so a couple of big companies, they've asked me, can you create our own? So a big luxury firm in the world asked me, can you create our own algorithm? The one I have, and it's open, right? It's you can add projects from any sector, and it's secure. It's private, but the algorithm learns with many. A few companies, they tell me, I just want to train this algorithm on my projects. I will provide you history about my projects, and we will train it with that, so that going forward, this algorithm is specific to my business, to the luxury world, and we can adjust it on the strategy as well. So that's how this, I can see every company having their own algorithm train, and then adjusting based on their changes in their market, the competition, their strategic, the weighting of these factors will be crucial to give you a score at the end, saying this project, which was strategic 6 months ago, now is not strategic anymore. Maybe the project is still well, but you need to reconsider if your strategy is that direction to stop it.
Awesome. Now, there's also this AI predictor that you talked about, the case study in your article, right? Is there any, significant challenges that you faced during the development or maybe implementation of this tool? Any key takeaways that you could share with our audience?
I think data, we thought it was a challenge, but data, it's a challenge that we need to address. It's not impossible. So yeah, we need to train a machine algorithm like this. Maybe we need data from 50 to 100 projects in the past, 94 criteria per project. That's a lot of data. But I think it should not be a blocker. There's ways to also to overcome some gaps in the data. So don't block because you don't have all the elements. Here is about moving fast, start it small, and see the results. So it's really important to get the support from the leadership as well. So this is an investment for really good reasons. It's not going to take away the job, because there's other areas, as probably you know, Ricardo Vargas and myself, we've been working a lot on AI and project management. There are some other areas from AI that you see are going to take a lot of work from us. Yeah, all the reporting, all the chasing, all the monitoring, all that, which people might think, oh, might lose my job. Not on prioritization and selection here. It's just a tool that will help us to do much better.
Got it. Now, looking ahead, how do you foresee this, AI changing the landscape of project management? Let's say in the next 5 or 10 years, what do you foresee?
There's two things. I wish we could be embracing this, and in 5 years, every organization would have this. Every project manager would be used to bring these tools, use these tools. That's why I also just launched a certification with APMG International AI Project Manager with Ricardo Vargas. So I think the profession needs to embrace this and support it and be a bit more entrepreneur in trying these things. My feeling, that's my wish, my feeling following the profession of project management is we're rather risk averse, which is look, see, because we push for change in our projects, but then as a profession, we're very slow to embrace change, and we all want to do the things like we've been doing them for many, many years. And this is for me a big risk for the profession. Either we accelerate the change, we change how we do projects, we focus on the value of projects, not the time and the cost, but mostly the benefits. And that's, I think, yeah, there's the risk that if either we do it or someone else will do it.
Perfect. So I guess that's also, there's some advice for project managers there as well to be prepared for this upcoming AI revolution of sorts. And towards the end, since you touched upon this certification that you're working with Ricardo on, I'd love to, get to know more about this for our audience. What is this about? And maybe a brief about this certification, how it can be applied and what can be done.
Sure. My vision is that in a few years, when you're a project manager, you apply for a job or get a promotion, one of the checks companies will do is, do you know how to use AI for our projects? And how can you prove that? So there's a few certifications, some of them less known, some of them really expensive. PMI just launched one through a partnership or an acquisition. So PMI is moving this way. I think what they're offering is great, but really quite expensive. So for a niche. So what we thought is, can we offer something fair, professional, that can be accrediting you as somebody that understands AI in projects and can use it. So that's the main trigger, I think, to make sure that people evolve in their skills. And I know we like to develop, we like to get more certifications. They are requested often by the market. So that was our vision, and that's what we hope people to start looking. So what we offer is, there's a master class that Ricardo and I do, but we don't do many because we're quite busy. And then there's the online course that you can follow in demand, plus the certification, which is a proper exam where you're monitored. So there's no open book, it's serious. And so that's what we launched just last week, which we're very excited. We have a lot of requests.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a podcast that Antonio and Ricardo also did recently, I believe, talking about that certification itself. Yeah. So you feel free to check that out. And thank you so much, Antonio. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm sure our PMC Lounge community will truly appreciate and enjoy this conversation.
Thank you, Shabi. A pleasure. Thank you for what I'm doing. I appreciate your efforts to bring the profession up, help the professionals which are great people, but the learning is key. So what you're doing is really appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.